Hey guys, today I'm going to be attempting to make some sort of fractal pattern, and I was inspired by the mandible tutorial that came back a few years ago. I think I have that open, well, here's the YouTube results if you want to check this out. This video by Jonas Shell, really amazing. I was sort of copying that down and trying to see like if I could do my own angle from it, but I kind of realized I would do best by just having just approaching it with the math that I already know, and just repeating sort of simple operations and seeing if I can get a cool result. So yeah, so that's what I'm gonna attempt right here. And to get the 3D mandible, the technique he uses volumetrics. So if I go into my shader, and I can just use EVA for this. I could also, I think, use cycles as well. EV's volumetric shading is kind of a bit more efficient. It takes less samples to get a clear image. So yeah, so open the shader editor. And let's add on my short keys so you can see what I'm doing. And as always, make sure the Node Wrangler add-on is activated. So I'm in the Edit Preferences, Add-ons, Node Wrangler. I typed in here, so it's available there. And yeah, so let's get started. So for this, I'm going to actually not use any surface information. It's all volumetric. So similar to if you saw my stream with the castle, where I made a castle using volumetrics, I'm doing the very same thing right here. So go to shader, and then principled volume. So plug that in. We should get a bunch of clouds. Oh yeah, my mistake. So this is in the surface. We want that in the volume right there. So we have some smoke here. It's hard to see what's going on unless you have some kind of light. You could use anything like an area light. It gives you kind of a nice even thing that's still focused on this area. And we can add detail to this volume if we change some of these settings in the resolution right here. So yeah, actually this camera icon brings you the scene settings, the renders, it's render properties, yeah. So if we go to volumetrics, and I think we bring this as small as possible, will give us the most detail. Or the opposite. Let's see what 16 looks like. Okay, yeah. Well, just comparing. Yeah. Well, we can see the difference if we plug maybe a noise texture into this density. And then if we used less center gray, then see how sharp these values are. Yeah. So that versus this, yeah, we can see the 2 pixels is a lot blurrier. And that, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then we can see, like, you know, we can add color to it. Again, this isn't a fractal. This is what I'm going to do. Use the color output. If I use CG, we can sort of exaggerate the gamma. So that was Shift A and then color gamma. So I'm using the underline things. That's why I said CG, C, and then G, color gamma. And yeah, so you can get some pretty cool stuff that way. And yeah, volumetrics can do a lot to add effects to your scene, but it can increase your render times, especially if you're using cycles. But right now I'm using Eevee. Yeah, and yeah, so let's try to make a fractal pattern. If you saw yesterday, I was making a 2D fractal pattern. I'm going to start with the object coordinates, and if I use a sphere, well, I think right now the sphere is larger than the size of this area. Oh, and it needs to be plugged into the density. Let's see if I plug that in, if that fixes that. Nope. So yeah, we need to change this to scale. And yeah, we can see it's getting in there. Maybe we need to... Oh yeah, so we've accidentally... I need to get out of the habit of pressing Control-Shift, because right now we're only working with volumes. So I typically use Control-Shift, and it plugs this into the viewer, which plugs into the surface. And that's just so that I can view different materials. Okay, and I can fix that by just quickly click shift on principal's volume. It knows it goes into the volume output. But that's an easy way to get tripped up. That's why I wasn't seeing a texture right there. Yeah, and so we have this sphere here. And actually, I want similar to yesterday, I was getting really cool effects when I used reflections. And I do that with the math property of absolute. And we're not getting so this is actually reflecting off the axis right here. It looks the same because spheres are symmetrical, and it's reflecting over the origin just as it already is. But if I use an add node to shift these coordinates over, actually I'm going to do that after. So I want it to reflect from the center, and then shift out, and then it will draw the sphere. So, yeah. So let's sort of figure out what's going on here. This changed when I plug that in there. Let's go back to when I had a sphere again. All right. This isn't doing anything, so let's just dissolve that. Maybe it was compiling, so that's why it wasn't showing. And I always like to add before scale. Yeah, but notice like now we're getting two spheres right here. But we have to be careful that they don't leave the bounds of this cube. So yeah, I can adjust the scale, and then yeah, I can shift it in all the directions. So if I made all of these negative 0.5, we now have 4 of these. That's pretty cool, right? And if I so let's see what this looks like if we put this all in a group and then recursively plug it into itself. So because when I group this makes an instance. So when I copy this, I can make a change to this one, and it will do the same thing in here. So let's undo that because I don't want to make that change. That was just an example. And let's use the last time we used the vectors, which was right here. If we plug this in, it knows this is a vector because it used that input. And yeah, that's what the purple means there. So we can see what happens when I add another one of these. When we're getting kind of rings, let's try to make sense of that. So I think it's reflecting from each of these circles, because now these are also coordinates that appear to be at 0, 0, even though it's kind of reflecting. If we look at the vector, I mean, we won't be able to make sense of the surface, so we can't really make so much sense of it. It doesn't, yeah, and but we can try doing more things to throw it off. So if we adjust these things and we could add a rotation in the middle. So let's make it on the z-axis, why not? Or let's make it on all of the axes. I think axis angle. So that actually, if these are 1, 1, 1, it'll have like a diagonal rotation, I think, and that could be a good contrast to this sort of spherical thing. And I think, yeah, another issue here. Here, this should be in the vector. So, okay, yeah, that's better. We're getting this, and we actually also have this color right here. If we multiply them together, just like I did in the last tutorial, or the live stream. I don't know if I would consider these tutorials. If I plug this into the density, well, nothing. Well, okay, the darkness is taking over right here. So let's change this to a mix shader, and we're going to control the white areas, so we can just use screen to do that. And then, yeah, take out this surface information. So it's just the volume input. Keep making that mistake. Very easy and simple to do. But, yeah, so if I plug this in here and then copy this and then, keep copying that input, it's going to get smaller and smaller, so that relationship will just increase. And it's actually kind of similar to this noise texture, because this is actually a fractal pattern. If you look at the scale of the noise, and yeah, we can't see this because again we need to sort of sharpen those values. We use the color ramp, but this will give us like a straight line, so it couldn't be clearer than this. But yeah, let's try to limit it so that we can see through it. But yeah, if I increase the detail, this is noise within noise within noise. So when I turn this up and then turn up the roughness, we have that larger shape, and then we have a smaller shape within it. And yeah, and that's why that's really awesome for creating imperfections. Yeah, with noise and just making things feel kind of rough. So that's what that looks like. But yeah, let's keep affecting this, and we have this repetition. We could plug more things than just a sphere into here. But yeah, let's see what we end up with. Yeah, so plug this screen again into density. We're gonna have to do this over and over again when we replace the stuff. So we have this, and then we should have a smaller noise. If I took this out and made this black, we can see what this one looks like. Or maybe I'll put a reroute node there so we can just easily plug that in without scrolling over there. I just did it anyway, but I don't know, just kind of a way to work with it to make it a little easier. Okay, interesting. Oh, so yeah, this needs to also have a mix node. Wait, no. Okay, here's the first sphere. There's somehow a second one. I think it's an offs. If you look in a side view, maybe it's clearer to see. Oh yeah, screen, so that combines them. So this, yeah, that needed to be turned out. That was a mistake there. And yeah, we have this last one. Let's plug that in there. Yeah, and then yeah, this, if we plug this in here, we'll finally have like 3 layers of that. Yeah, so this is still looking like pretty basic, I think. So we could rotate it, but it's rotating around this original position right here. We could put a rotate in the beginning, so maybe even before it reflects, it rotates. And we get more of a spiral-y. And yeah, these values make it go over the diagonal, if you think about it. So it's rotating over this x-axis, and it's rotating over this y-axis. So it's kind of like this, I think, or we can see what the rotation's doing. If we scale this in, we can see more of it. Yeah, you can even get like right in there, which is really awesome to be able to do. Yeah, so we're kind of getting this fractal cube. Let's see what more we can. So it's rotating this larger part, but it's also rotating each part within itself, right? So yeah, and that's how recursive stuff just works. We could maybe add some regularity to this, so we could add some distortion to the sphere. If I use this vector and then plug that into there, and then plug this back into the vector. Let's save this, so in case it crashes, I still can work from this. Yeah, so we're getting some fractal action there. Makes more of a cloud. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I know DSO was asking about how to make smoke, so this is kind of workflow for that. Um, resolve this maybe. I mean, it doesn't make much of a difference, but I could put it at the very beginning, so it happens on this first rotation as well. That's the only difference that we'll get by making this change. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. If we go back to earlier in this week when I was making a glitch pattern, we were trying to make that as cool, and we were trying to make a glitch look as cool as possible and just kind of look weird. So maybe we can kind of try to do something similar here. Yeah, maybe we can, make this a little asymmetrical. If we vary these transformations on these different axes, maybe we can make it a little more interesting. Yeah, so not really noticing much of a difference here because just kind of rotating on themselves. Negative 0.3, just even values. Yeah. Kind of like the smokiness of the texture there. Maybe we could use this noise texture for another output, maybe to have color in this. Yeah, so if I combine, let's say these, and we don't need these connected, but these two. If I again use multiply, this will just combine the colors. It will start to get darker, but in exchange you get the color values combined. So you can see that in here. I mean, yeah, we want to keep it in the principled volume. Yeah, so this will go into color, this will go into density, and let's turn up emission strength to 1. That will give it, make it more solid. I think and yeah, and let's try putting this into emission color, and yeah, so it's compiling, so it's taking time to figure out what it's going to look like. Yeah, so emission seems to be interfering with it. So I guess we should plug this into emission strength as well, because it's affecting density. And these should be pretty much in line, the strength and density. Yeah, so we're starting to get something here. Let's try to turn it up with turning up the gamma, CG. Just hoping that would make it more saturated. Oh, and it is. Oh, and this was losing color, I think, with the mix. If we keep multiplying, it should be pretty strong, I think. Yeah, so we're getting, something kind of interesting here. We could try getting more lights on it. Yeah, let's just increase this once and see how it looks. Yeah, so I guess 3000 is the perfect number, obviously. And yeah, So these are fractals, but it's not so clear. I guess we can turn down the distortion. Let's just adjust it. If we adjust this scale, I think the bigger the number this is, the larger the variation, and the more the distance of each of these spheres. And maybe we could just use a sphere gradient on this original part too. Just be, we know it's a sphere, and we're adding that bit. Yeah, these spheres just aren't coming off as very interesting. Let's see what we can do. Maybe if we make this plug this in a difference, they'll like cut outside of each other. Maybe it'll go in the wrong direction, in a direction that we don't want. Yeah, it seems to be. Oh yeah, it was just compiling, so it's actually quite similar. Yeah, but we could go into this, maybe adjust this, like, see what radial looks like. So that's kind of what wraps around the sphere. It's compiling down here, so we're taking a look. Yeah, that doesn't really, but we could combine these two. So if we have a radial, and then radial, we can't really see what it's doing right here. I mean, I could just use object coordinates, and if I plug in a radial and then in the surface, we'll just be working on the surface to see what it's doing here. And there's some confusion here because it's using volumetrics and this radial. That's why we're getting those lines. But if we use modulo, and let's repeat it by, let's use a value node to control that. Because we have to do a little bit of math to make the scale of this gradient in line with the modulo, because this cuts it into a bunch of chunks. So right now it's every 0.2, it just cuts it and then starts at the beginning again. But then we are not getting the full range of the values, so then we multiply it at the end by whatever we did here. So this 0.2, so it's actually 1 divided by whatever the number of repetitions is. And in this case, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And yeah, so if we change this to divide, we'll get that repetition there. And then, yeah, just plug this into multiply. Modulo into there. So then we have that repetition. Yeah, and let's see if we have this. We can also mirror it with absolute value, as I used before, but earlier was vector, so that copies the 3 values, whether it's the color or the position, the vector, as you call it, right here, that purple output. But -0.5 cuts in, brings it so that 0 is at the half point. So that's where the black starts, is at 0, and then black is all negative values. If I use absolute, negative, positive, it makes everything positive. So -1 becomes 1. That creates that reflection there. So So, and then I'll multiply that 2 just to get the original range, and that won't matter so much, but you know, it's just kind of nice to have predictable values if we hold that as a standard. So right now we have this cutting out of it, and so we can use this pattern and maybe cut into this and see if that's interesting after all that work. So plug it in there, and we're not putting this factor all the way, and we get the same result if we were using one of these math nodes, unless this was in color, that would be losing that detail. Yeah, so now we just go to the principled volume output again, and then it's compiling. Let's hope it's giving us about the same. Well, yeah, let's just keep adjusting. Maybe instead of using scale, we can do multiply, and this will adjust it on different axes. So let's make one point. Yeah, so already we're getting some, you know, interesting stretching. So it gets a bigger value, creates that reflection. And I think this small number is where it's stretching out a lot. Yeah, so maybe I'll just get rid of this rotation. It's kind of getting in the way of, so let's bring that back, these back to 0. Yeah, we're just getting a Q, and it's not that interesting. But use this noise, increase the scale. Let's see what that's doing. We could yeah, we can see what yeah, the more we distort, the less clear that transformation is. Yeah, this stretching's kind of dumb, so let's just make that the same value again. And yeah, maybe bring it down. Or yeah, bring it up. Let's scale down so that the distance between each of these is more and more. And then, yeah, let's just make all these things 0.5 again. And just I guess we don't, kind of preferring it without that distortion there. And yeah. I want this to use the whole space though, so let's keep making this bigger. And if we just rotate on one axis, just experiment. Okay, I'm fine with this. And so let's just add a screen, another screen to here. And this will go into the first one. Then I'll add another sphere gradient right here. Yeah. Maybe we could try changing this to a hue saturation node. So if I turn this saturation way up, I think that's our cap, but we can bring that up to something higher anyway. 500. Yeah, I guess it doesn't do much. Maybe we can try putting it into there as well. It's just compiling again. Yeah, okay. So that's kind of cool. And could add, maybe instead of a noise distortion, we could swirl this. So let's plug that back into here. And based on a sphere gradient, if we plug this into the mapping right there, save it. So yeah, so now we're getting kind of this vortex. Maybe it's a little hard to see. We could try multiplying it to make it more pronounced. Yeah, let's see what happens if we do it on the inner one. So that's after it's reflected, so that's for each of these individual ones. Yeah. This reminds me of some kind of serial. I can't quite place the type, but yeah. So cool. That's it. We made it. I think I'm gonna call it for today. This is a fractal pattern officially. Yeah. So hope you enjoyed this. Found it interesting, and have a great day. This is the power of group nodes. You can just repeat things with these like simple transformations of rotating, scaling, shifting with the add node, and yeah, and then yeah, combining it with the screen node, and then putting into density, and then yeah, just using that volume output. So yeah, there you go. So